Hello, Brains! If you haven't heard, my book is done, and it's available now for pre-order everywhere books are sold.
Hello, Brains!
I love fidgets, especially well-made fidgets that last a long time and can be used quietly without distracting me or those around me. Stimagz are perfect for that. Stimagz are high-quality fidgets designed by a neurodivergent team for the neurodivergent community. They're a pattern-based fidget, which makes them more cognitively stimulating than other fidgets that are only physically stimulating, such as fidget spinners. This allows you to better regulate your sensory needs and get to an ideal level. They also fit right in your pocket, even girl pockets. I brought them to a conference recently, and they were really helpful in terms of helping me sit still and stay focused. They're incredibly versatile. There are a lot of ways you can use them, depending on how much stimulation you need at any given time. When I needed more stimulation, I used a lot of them, or got more complex with how I was using them. When I needed less, I could just use a couple. Stimagz are designed for adults, unlike a lot of fidgets, and they're designed with quality in mind over all else. The magnets are really strong, and after playing with them, dropping them, traveling with them, they're still in amazing shape. If you'd like to get your own, go to stimara.com. I'll also link to it in the description below, and let me know what you think. I wanted to do this episode because I know that there are still a lot of people struggling, including me sometimes, to get their medication because of the med shortage. And so I wanted to talk to somebody who knew what they were talking about what to do if you can't get your meds. So this is Dr. Ned Hallowell. If you don't know who he is, I will put a million links in the description to his books, his talks, his website, everything. Dr. Hallowell is one of the experts on ADHD, Harvard-trained psychiatrist, and has ADHD himself. So I figured there was no better person to speak to.
And dyslexia too.
Are you seeing this with your patients where some of them are having trouble filling their prescriptions?
Oh my goodness, yes. It's, it's like they're prospecting for gold all around the streets of Boston. They'll call, I found a pharmacy that has it. No, I got to get there quick before someone else finds it too. I mean, what I say to folks is, yes, you would like the medication you're taking. And it's usually Adderall or Adderall XR. And I'll say, look, there are other medications. And maybe let's turn this curse into a blessing. Let's try some other meds and see if we can find a med that works even better. A lot of people have a very loyal relationship with the medication. But if you can't get it, time to sort of try something else. Because if you're someone who has trouble functioning without medication, you could lose your job or you could fail chemistry.
Or get into a car accident.
Yeah, car accident. Absolutely. Car accidents are way more common in people with ADD. In addition to trying other medications, and by now there's probably 20 meds you could try, or even more. It is a perfect time to try using the non-medication treatments that we have. And I think everybody should try medication and should also try the non-medication. The non-medication works for everybody. And the first thing is education. And education helps everyone who has this condition. Most people who have ADHD don't know nearly enough about it. And the more you understand it, because no two ADDs are exactly the same, the more you understand your ADHD, the better you can handle it. And you're calling the folks out there brains, it's like brain management. And you are the expert on your brain. Now, there's one qualifier that we ADDers, I still call it ADD because that's what it was called when I learned about it in 1981, and I haven't changed. But we are not good self-observers. So you want to do your assessment of the impact of the medication with someone else's opinion as well, a spouse, a teacher, a friend, somebody. And by the way, it's not either or. It should be both and. If you find a medication that works, great, but that should never be the entire treatment.
Which it was for me. I don't know if we've talked about this, but for the first 20 years of my treatment, It was medication and nothing else. Nobody had ever suggested anything else. And it worked really well for me. Yeah. And so when I didn't have access to my meds, I had no tools. I had no coping mechanisms. I just felt useless to where it was like, well, I guess I will not function until I can get my meds again. I didn't have any other ways of dealing with it. And that's one of the reasons I started the channel. First of all, my life was still kind of in shambles even with the medication. It was not enough. But when I was without the medication, it was just devastating to me. Here's how it went. So I would go every month or 3 months, however often I had to go into the psychiatrist, and it would be, how are your meds working? Great. Any side effects? No. great. Here's a prescription. Bye. That was it. They asked me if my meds were working.
They never said, how are you happy? Or
No.
how are you doing?
No.
Or
they asked me if my meds were working. They never asked me if my life was working. I would have been not at all. I'm getting a divorce and like my credit's terrible and like I have no friends. Like I would have told them, no, things are not going well.
Wow.
But I didn't understand my ADHD back then. I knew that I had trouble focusing and I took meds to help me focus.
Right.
And that was it. I thought everything else was my fault.
Oh, yes.
All of my disorganization was my fault. All of my, difficulty with planning, prioritizing, sticking to long-term goals. So I thought that was just me being
a full-blown
lazy
case of blaming yourself for stuff you couldn't control.
It was kind of really fun for me to learn, oh, wait, no, there's reasons for these struggles.
Yeah.
And educate myself about them and starting to learn the error codes. So I think of it like a printer. You learn to read the error codes on a printer instead of banging on it and being like, why aren't you working? You're like...
And there are more solutions than try harder. If you stop there, it's like telling someone who's nearsighted to squint harder. And so many folks with ADD of all ages are just blaming themselves, because they can't squint hard enough. You don't want to fall into that trap.
So what are some of your favorites? If
we're talking about adults now, the top of the list are obvious. Be with the right person and find the right job. And the right job is the overlap of 3 spheres. All the things that you really like to do, all the things that you're really good at doing, and then where they have overlap, which of those will someone pay you to do? Too many of us, we take the first job we can get, and we think, well, I'm stuck with this. And having the wrong job is like being with the wrong mate. I'm working on a book now related to self-esteem, and the working title is You're Better Than You Think You Are. Mm. And most people with ADD are better than they think they are. Oh. And, it's so true.
So the first thing is environmental.
Yeah, and very much relationship oriented. It may sound obvious, but I can't tell you how many people come to see me and they're in the wrong job or they're with the wrong person or both.
Do you write them a prescription for Tinder?
I have done that. New girlfriend or, new job.
How can you tell if you're in the wrong job?
It's so easy. Just don't pretend you're in the right job. I mean, do you look forward to going to work? Do you enjoy your time at work? Do you feel you're making a contribution? Do you feel safe to make suggestions? Do you feel safe to be yourself? The employer and you have the same goal. You want to get the most out of your brain. It shouldn't be an opposition. It should be a cooperation. Your goals are the same. And not enough supervisors ask, are we getting the most out of your brain that we can get? And then, okay, what can we do within the parameters of this job where we could deploy your time more effectively? Once you open up the question, then everybody wins. Even if you make no changes, you feel so much better that you've been asked. And part of ADD is a feeling of unexplained underachievement. Most people with ADD feel they're underachieving. You begin with that, and then you say, what can I do differently? Some of it is, the stuff we know about, lists and reminders and getting enough sleep. By the way, that's a big one, getting enough sleep. We tend to stay up too late because we don't want to shut down our brain. It's going so fast and we like it so much. It's like we don't want to leave the party. And
so why does sleep matter?
Not enough sleep predisposes you for high blood pressure or obesity or immune function.
And it definitely impacts executive function and focus.
Yes, you're cranky and impatient, and you were impatient enough to begin with. And then physical exercise is another huge one. Getting exercise is one of the absolute best things you can do for your brain. And then if you add to it meditation. Now, the problem with meditation is it's too boring for me. and so we have trouble with boring. But if you can persuade yourself to meditate, it will pay you back many times over.
Well, that's exactly it. Like I do exercise regularly, but I find it much harder to do it if I'm not medicated. Do you have any advice for getting yourself to use these tools when you're...
Well, that's where coaching or a relationship can really help you. A coach can be a cheerleader. A coach can be someone who holds you accountable, or you can, with a partner, you can exercise together. It's all about nuts and bolts, but it's also implicitly about cheering you up, about encouraging you. The act of doing that, having someone fuss over you and ask you, that you're being cared for, you're being tended to. It's all implicit, but it feels good. And you start to look forward to seeing your coach. Nutrition matters. I don't know what diet to recommend. Be your own experimental animal. See what works for you. there's some things we know won't help and that are probably destructive. Sugar, bad. Big load of carbs, bad. Extreme diet of any kind, bad, because you're not going to do it for very long.
Okay, hang on. But I will say this. Yeah. If I need to focus and I don't have my meds, I am 100% going to eat animal crackers while I work.
Fine. If it works, fine. Absolutely.
My brain needs something.
Yeah,
I need something.
Fine. Great. You found something that works.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. And by the way, a fantasy can do that too. Just imagining how good you'll feel when the project is done, or imagining where you want to go on vacation, or imagining the face of your child or your dog or your loved one. I mean, putting positive images into your imagination is a really good thing to learn how to do. And then the one that nobody pays attention to except me, massive doses of vitamin C, of vitamin Connect, not just ascorbic acid, but connection, like we're doing right here with Chloe. Yeah. It's really good for you.
And actually, it helps with some of the ADHD too, in terms of body doubling. Like if you body double, it's a lot easier to focus on what you're trying to focus on. But I have learned for myself that if I am not medicated, I cannot be trusted to show up to work and do a full work day without any supervision. Like somebody needs to know if I'm there or not. So I have a virtual office in Bramble that I will go into and body double with other people, or at least be there and know that other people could walk in and see if I'm there or not. Because one of the things I miss the most when I'm not on my meds is that starting gun of you feel that rev up and you're like, okay, cool. Like I imagine it's what most people feel like when they have their morning coffee. Like, okay, cool. Yeah. Now I'm ready to work.
By the way, that's another, you could try caffeine to replace your prescription. It works pretty well. Caffeine is the most widely used stimulant in the world. It's just so important to find the zone where you feel as conflict-free as possible, where you can be yourself.
That's another blessing in disguise, I think, of when you're not able to take medications for a while, you realize maybe some of the things that you've been doing because you have the medication to help you, right. But maybe isn't something that's actually that important to you. It's more you're just trying to meet other people's expectations. Yeah. If you don't have access to meds, you have to really prioritize and go, okay, what do I not want to lose in my life? Yeah. Maybe some of this stuff is extraneous.
I have an acronym, CDE, Curtail, Delegate, Eliminate. And if you just go through your day and what can I curtail? What can I cut back on? What can I delegate? That's a big, important one. And then the best one of all, what can I eliminate? It feels so good when you offload. I mean, you can have a project that you've been meaning to do and you don't really want to do, just offload it. No, I don't have to do that.
You can do that?
Yes. Or cultivate lilies and get rid of leeches. Leeches are people or projects that aren't worth the time you give them. And then lilies are people or projects that are worth it.
I love that. Well, thank you so much. I think this was really helpful.
Thank you.
I learned something. I hope you learned something. Thank you to my brain advocates and all my Patreon brains for allowing me to make content like this. Flew all the way out to the East Coast just to interview him in person. And that's because of the support that you were able to give us on a monthly basis. Like, subscribe, click all the things. Let us know if you like this video so we can do more like it. And I will see you next video. Bye, brains. Wait, 1, 2, 3.
Bye, brains.